Too many windows.
It's the pre-show.
Sound like an old man.
No. There wasn't enough rattle or timber.
True.
With that long, lingering, like, or it just stretches out and just never ends. And
yeah,
2 people deep all the way around, and the theater seating just basically turn and look after 20 seconds because they think he's gonna die.
How morbid.
Well, when he said about coughing like an old man, I'm like, no. When I think of coughing like an old man, I think like not doing well, probably gonna not make it.
Yeah.
Oh my. What does this?
Yep.
Okay. Quick test. What was that?
Good.
Loud and clear.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. In that case, shall we do this on a bitch?
Yes.
Okay. Introduce this. 3, 2, and 3, 2. July 8th, 2018. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
And that makes me Gary.
Don't hurt nobody with your bad self.
And welcome to the Cubs Out Loud, the Bear Podcast of Indeterminate Length, episode number 470. And only 30 more shows until 200. Or 500.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. Maybe
Yeah.
is that like 2019? The
Yeah.
kind of
The
like
lineup,
Probably.
it's around the anniversary. Not on, no.
wow.
Now,
What timing that would be.
Well, it was going to be that way, and then we took a break and did an extra show, and so
Oh well.
Eh,
What is it?
close
In any
enough.
case, let's find out this. Well, that was short. I think have done my shortest contract ever. Because the day after we recorded last week, I had to get my car fixed so I could get to work. So I was late to work. Worked there for 2.5 hours. Went on lunch, and then I get a call from my contractor. Find out your contract's been terminated, and they didn't even want you to come in today. And I was like, all confused because I went in, I worked, no one mentioned anything.
I knew, right?
And then I left for lunch, got the call, and they said, don't go back in. Whatever you do not go back in. So I'm like, what? I could go pick up my stuff and, just flitter off. They're like, I think it's kind of like one of those things because they don't want anybody to make a scene or something. It's like, yeah, I'm a nice guy and everything. So I would probably be fine, but they don't want to take a chance because, probably other people would do that. So I was all confused, and I'm like, okay, all I had was my backpack and my charger. And so they had somebody go pick that stuff up, and I went to see him the next day to pick up my stuff and got everything. And this is also having spent like $400 in car repairs.
Yep.
And of course, I also paid rent. And so basically, I'm very short on cash right now until I actually get paid it next Friday. So I'm kind of like sticking at home, not doing too much, applied for unemployment. We'll still throw out looking for jobs. Of course, I'm also short on gas. So hopefully I don't have to go anywhere until at least Friday.
Yep.
Just so I can, because I get paid, I can go get gas. I'll be fine. Then, it'll be over $1,000. So it's still a good chunk of money, and be able to pay bills and stuff. But of course, you need to get unemployment rolling so that at the end of the month I can pay my rent.
right.
Of course, this is also after I signed my new lease, which is going up $15 because they went with the 12-month contract instead of a 6-month. Because I've always wanted a 12-month, but for some strange reason, they have this philosophy of the shorter, the shorter the term, the less you have to pay. Don't look at me.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's there's a $15 difference between a 12-month contract and a 6-month contract. I know, it's weird. I don't get it. It's fine. I was like, hey, I'm making enough money. I can, spend an extra $15 a month as long as it's a 12-month contract because I, for God's sakes, hate moving. So I'm just going to stick with this. It's going to be great. I'm going to continue working. I'm going to get fully hired on. Everything's going to be fine. Next day, everything went to shit.
Not so much.
Everything went to
shit. Yeah. That's life.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood. I thought the job that you were working was not contract and you were actually hired on.
No,
so
it was contract to hire.
Well, I've kind of put
the
that
intent
together.
The intent was just I would work so many months for the contractor, and then they would just hire me on as long as I was doing a good job. And as far as I know, I was doing a good job. And the thing is, Yes, it seems like yes. I mean, that's exactly what was happening. It's just they didn't need as many people, and of course, the contractors go first.
Right.
Since I hadn't been hired on and trying to get that tenure to be able to stay, they just ended the contract. So it wasn't. I didn't do anything. It was fine. It was. I wouldn't say it was amicable per se. But
No.
it,
Usually
it's
contract ending is not.
yeah, it's not because of anything I did. It's just they didn't need as many people, so at least it was fine. And just because for shits and giggles, I went to their website to see about like maybe applying to get directly hired on, and the job listing wasn't even there. So I'm like, yeah, it's probably they have enough people. They had more than enough, so somebody had to go. So, so I'm taking it as I'm very upset, but I can understand where they're coming from and where I was in the position. So, if they do open up a position for that position again, hey, maybe I'd consider applying directly to them or popping back in. So because they were great people, and I was hoping that one of my team leads would invite me to a D&D game that he was working on. But that's probably not going to happen because I don't even have his contact information. So. Anyways,
What can you do?
so I'm jobless. So hey, folks, did you know we have a Patreon and we've got the Zazzle store up? So I'm jobless. I'm on the market in two ways. I'm more active on the job front and less active on the boyfriend front. So, just saying.
Best of luck with both.
So in the meantime, I watched the entire run of the Magic School Bus Rides again,
Oh my god.
which is fan freaking tastic. And I also got caught up on Voltron. I watched the entire series of Queer Eye, which is freaking amazing. I love I love all of them. I'm usually not a fan of the very femi guys. They kind of like, I think I get intimidated by them. I get overwhelmed because they have like so much energy and such and everything. But I love Jonathan. I think Jonathan is amazing. And he's like super flamboyant and everything. But love him to death. And just there's something about Tan, and I love all of them in different ways. But those are kind of my two highlights of this too. So yeah, so I've been watching a lot of TV, playing a lot of WoW, and had taken kind of a break. So this week is kind of like so this week it's kind of like each day I already applied to a thing at Apple, which good luck with me on that. And it's just working on some other things, so just need to apply at other places. We check Dell and AMD and such like that. So that's me. I've rattled on. Damon?
Well, on a slightly happier note, so yesterday, friends of mine got together, and it was Articuno Day for Pokemon Go. So if you played Pokemon Go, raid battles, you get a bunch of people together and you go fight, and if you defeat the enemy or the Pokemon, you can try to catch it. So first of all, this was my first time doing a group raid battle where it's kind of everything was kind of arranged. some friends use the Discord app, as Jeff has mentioned before, and they got heard of this, and they're like, oh, so we went over to Norwood, and we all got together, and like there's like 20, 30 people at this post office basically, and this is where we started, and then groups kind of separated off. So we went with one group, and you basically go to the different gyms, and you fight, and you win, and da da da. So you're trying to get like the rare Pokemon, which is the Articuno, and it was really cool. But one of the benefits of that is you're obviously meeting strangers, people you've not really met or maybe chatted with, and one of the guys in my small group of friends named Tyler is colorblind, and he's a blue-red colorblind, which I didn't know existed, but it does apparently. And it turns out that one of the other guys that was part of this group is also colorblind and was wearing those in chroma or whatever they're called, like shades. And we were talking about it at one of the last stops, and he was like, and Tyler mentioned that he was colorblind, and the guy was like, oh, well, I have these, and this has helped me. And he's like, oh, wow. And he goes, here, you can try them. And Tyler tried them on, and it was one of the most wonderful experiences in my life, just to witness him seeing the color blue for the first time. It was a really beautiful, clear day, so we got to see the sky. It was a really, like, we were near a fucking, like, big-ass pool, so he got to see, like, the color of the pool. And, I mean, it was just amazingly beautiful and wonderful. And he's like 20-something years old, and it's his first time seeing the color blue. And it was just really, really fucking awesome. And he kept his composure until we got to the car to drive to the next location. And he called, I believe, his partner, our boyfriend, I don't know what they are. And he was talking to someone in his family. And it was just very, like, that's when, like, the tears started flowing. And he was telling him, like, I saw blue for the first time. I saw the sky for the first time. And it was just this beautiful moment. And he's like, there's 5 of us in this car, and he is basically in between me and another guy, and like we're literally in the backseat, like crammed together. So I couldn't help but like be there. So, but it was very sweet and very wonderful, and a very eye-opening, literally, experience for him. And I'm so glad to have been there to see it, because it's something that a lot of us take for granted. And he now knows what his next purchase will be at some point in the future, because he was so the guy was talking to him about it, and he was like saying it takes like I think 40 hours or something like that of constant wear to kind of get your brain to really know the colors and what have you. So it was really awesome. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Like, I did something. Our Scorpius had a leather night last night, and that's why I was up late getting here. So yeah, but that was amazing. So yay,
yay,
yeah.
I just added the website link to the company that makes the lenses. I knew that the technology was out there, but I didn't realize that there was a company that would just basically sold you glasses, like flat out.
So yeah, and
that's pretty amazing.
So just, for everyone that I posted on Facebook, I caught 8 of the 13 or 14 that we went and saw. I didn't get a shiny, if you know Pokemon Go, but that's okay. It was that experience in and of itself with the colorblindness and all that stuff was it for me. Yeah. Yay, Gary.
So, I don't think I talked about this on the podcast before. 2 years ago, maybe September, October this year, it'll be 2 years. I I'd gone to the doctor and I just was like having malaise. Like I knew something was wrong with me because I spent like weeks being tired.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really anything else and I couldn't put my finger on it. So I talked to my doctor and he was like, "Oh, well, let's run some tests." And I can't remember the exact name, but I come back like a week later, I think, after the blood test, and he's like, yeah, you have mono."
Ugh.
Excuse me? And immediately he's like, "You seem surprised by this." "Yes, very." And he goes, let me guess, you haven't really been around anybody that you think that would have been a factor." I'm like, "Correct." He goes, "Well, that is consistent with your results." I said, "Okay." He said, "You have the virus that we call commonly mono." He's like, "It's a cytomegalovirus or something like that. And it's part of the herpes family. Yay, I believe." Anyways, he said, "Yeah, so your results show that you didn't contract it recently, that you've actually had it for a while." I was like, "Oh." So he showed me the results and then I looked up and read it online. And long story short, at some point in my life, we would never know when, I had contracted it from somebody else. And it's a lifelong virus thing. And so it has a habit of kind of coming up when the body's like immune system isn't great, when you are tired a lot, like stressed and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Okay, so what do we do?" He's like, "Nothing." I was like, "What do you mean you don't do anything?" He's like, "You just need to rest." He's like, "Your body will work through it." He's like, "But this will probably kind of come and go." Great. So the reason I tell this story is, so we recorded last Sunday. AJ and Drew were in for Pride for Erie, and then Drew went home on Sunday, and then AJ ended up going home on Monday. But on Sunday, like wasn't like feeling bad, but I just kind of felt a little bit off or whatever. And I noticed that my left armpit was bugging me a little bit. So Monday, AJ had left. He went back home, and I was feeling worse. And I noticed that like my armpit was bugging me more. So of course I go in the bathroom and I go and check it. And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's new." So, because at first I thought like, I had like an armpit hair twisted or I don't know, something like that. And I could tell that my lymph nodes were swollen. And I was like, "Oh, well, that's not fun."
No.
Not good.
So yeah, which means that my body had an infection. And I was like, "Okay, well, this sucks." So I just basically spent 3-4 days sleeping a lot, like nonstop in bed. Lots of water, like hydration. I didn't eat for like 2.5 days. I wasn't stomach sickness. I never had a fever, never had chills. I just gave no shits about anything and just wanted to sleep and to rest and let my body like kind of go through this. So yeah, that was my week basically. I didn't really do anything. And like I had reached out a little bit to Vince and was like, "Hey, blah blah blah." And I was like, "This is weird. I just don't have any like typical sickness. You know what I mean? It's not flu, it's not gastro, whatever." So
Yeah.
yay. So this isn't technically related to that, but that's what I'm attributing in a way, because I'm like, what else would it be? So yeah, so it's mostly past. I'm still feeling blasé and keeping a low profile and not really doing a whole lot. So
A little bit of
Yeah.
orange juice, some soup.
well, I knew I was feeling better on Wednesday night, July 4th, because my appetite came back.
Oh,
Like
well,
out
that's
of the
good.
blue, I was like, I want to eat.
Everything.
Well, no, not everything. I
Not
was
that
like,
hungry.
right. I was like, I want to eat. Like I want to have a meal. And it wasn't anything real specific, but I also knew I didn't want anything like crazy. So yeah, I mean it was kind of notable. I was like, "Oh, I'm hungry." Like I actually feel like I need to eat something. Where all day Monday, Tuesday, most of Wednesday, I couldn't care about anything. So I was just basically popping Tylenol the whole time. So yay. So there's that.
Yeah.
Still on the job hunt. Found out about a cool company. I posted about it on Facebook. That their services, so they hire individuals to be basically, they're not customer service reps, but they're reps. And this particular company provides visual and voice assistance to the blind or the visually impaired.
Hmm.
So you have an app on your smartphone.
Oh, I think I heard
And
this.
you wear what looks like Google Glass. And like if you're the person who needs the service, you pay them for it and it's a monthly subscription. And then you get so many minutes of assistance, and then they can help you navigate your surroundings or whatever is immediately with you. But they had a job listed as remote to do the assistance part, like where you're using their software platform and like telling the person, the subscriber, like what they see. So I fell down a video hole and watched that for like an hour, like all these like testimonials and the people that work for the company and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty amazing. I was blown away by this concept of that this company came up with this idea. And basically, if I was to be a support like person and someone called in, I would be able to explain to them what I'm seeing and then providing them with the assistance. So like having worked in telecommunications, it's a lot like a relay call where a relay operator explains, what the person is typing on the other end, basically for teletype. But this is all visual. So they're wearing the glasses like Google Glass. You can see what they cannot in their immediate surroundings, and then you can explain everything. So it was pretty awesome. Like they were showing like how they can cross traffic, they can get navigation to places. But then what I liked about it is that you can go ahead and do further things. And the system is meant to be sophisticated enough if they allow access that like you pull up their profile and things about them, like not everything they post at Facebook, but some of the shared data. And then you'll be able to see like their contacts. And so like if they're meeting someone, like in the one video, the guy was meeting a friend of his for lunch. So she navigated him to get to the location. And when he gets there, he is told like that the table's up front, like out on the sidewalk or whatever. And then she knows who the person is that he's meeting because the software does facial recognition. Like it pops a little thing on the side that this is Bob. Like, blah, blah, blah. It was so cool. I was like, that's amazing. Like I posted on Facebook because I was like, still looking for a job, but hey, I found this thing. And then someone replied to me and they were like, this is pretty cool if you thought about like applying. And it's like, well, that's cool. It's not the income thing that I need. So, and it's really difficult. Well, it's really difficult right now because I'm approaching the point where it's like, I got to get a job and I might have to get 2 jobs, like to be able to make things work. And if that's the case, like I might be able to get one job that's okay paying and I might have to get like, a part-time job that's going to make up for the rest of it or whatever. And so I don't want to, I'm in this weird limbo. Like I don't want to take one and then limit the other opportunity, that kind of stuff. So, and then this week just kind of put me down for the count. So I was like, okay, well, maybe not. Yeah. So no, it was pretty cool. I was like, and then a couple people reached out after I kind of posted that because I haven't said anything since January really about where things are at. And so, yeah, and there's to me it's new. There's a platform online. Jeff, you might actually be interested to look in this. There's an app and a platform called Wonolo. It's WONOLO, and it's Work Now Local is what it stands for. And basically, it's companies that are willing to hire like immediate need, and it's a good way to like get some immediate cash like within 2 or 3 days, basically. One of my best friends has been using it in Pittsburgh and turned me on to it. The problem is there is nothing locally for me, which is not a surprise because Erie is so behind the times on everything. But in other places, it looks pretty decent. It's a lot of like, I don't want to say manual labor, but it's not like high sophistication, meaning you don't have to have a ton of training for whatever these things are. So it could be delivery, it could be packing, just things along those terms, which there was a part of me that's like, well, Maybe I'll go hang with my friends for a week in Pittsburgh and pick up some time to get some money because
Nice.
that's going to become a thing. But I didn't know, but it makes sense. It makes perfect sense that there are these type of apps and websites and stuff out there. The companies are like, they need employment and they need it immediately. And it's not so much about going through a temp company, which in a way this kind of is, but it's more sophisticated than that. And they basically tell you what they're looking for and stuff. So, yeah. So it's WONOLO. Whoa, no, low, as in work now, local. Yeah. So, like right now, no, it's down to that. Like the one place that was in the Pittsburgh region, they were hiring anywhere between like $88 and $112 a day.
Basically places that just need somebody for a job, for a thing, and for all intents and purposes, this is an actual temp job versus a contract job. Contract jobs means the intention is to have you for a certain period of time. In this case is, hey, we just need more people to help out with this. It's a one-time thing. Go do it. You get paid for it. That's it.
And some of it's like event-based. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of like the lantern festivals where you construct and put together like a paper lantern. They kind of come from Asian culture, I believe. And then you put like a small candle in the bottom of it, and then the heat from the candle creates the ability to float. And so like thousands of people show up and they'll let all of these off at one time, like, and they'll just kind of like float up into the sky and stuff. And that's an example of like, it's a one-time event, so they need help, but it's not like a job. So it's a way to pick up some extra cash. But then other things are like permanent repeating stuff. So anyways, just passing that along is like something I was like, oh, all right.
Well, the key that turned me off there was manual labor.
Well, it's not all manual labor. I mean, it's like some of it's administrative office work. Like my friend, she's working for a commissary type company that handles stuff for the airlines and gets paid to roll silverware. Technically, that's manual labor. It's not very laborious, but you know, or packing food for meals and stuff. Yeah, and it's one of the things like we kind of talked about. Like, is it a permanent thing that you want to take on? Maybe, maybe not. And that's one of the things is that you have, it's like contract and that, like you have the option if things work out really well and you really like it and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Enough about that.
I just lost track of everything. Hold on. So, one of the things we like to talk about at this point in time is how you can support us. Obviously, based off the fact that 2 of us co-hosts are currently unemployed. We would love if you would pop over to our Zazzle store, zazzle.com/cubsoutloud or cubsoutloud.com, and click on the COL merchandise link. We got plenty of things, including stuff from the Smashy collection, because we love Smashy, and Smashy does things that we love for us. You can see some of our latest products sold, and you can also see, guess what? The soup bowls and the chili bowls are now showing up on the store.
Yay!
I think they look amazing. A little more expensive than I thought they would be, but you know, sometimes customization, especially on demand, is a little bit more expensive. So,
did you find out what the story was that it took so long?
I have no idea. I went in and just like resaved some of the settings, and then it showed up. So I really don't know what the issue was. They always have some sort of discount code. A bunch of things are currently 15% off with their current discount code. So pop in there and see what you can find. Backpacks, mugs, t-shirts.
I think shirts are 40% off again.
It's saying 15.
Well, it might have already expired. I get emails almost every damn day. it seems from them. So,
but the it's 40% off pillows, hats, bunting, flags, and more. So if you want a COL hat, well, maybe not the hat. This hat, baseball caps.
oh, valid through 7/6. That's why. See, that's the only thing about I like the Zazzle sales. Like, they're like 48-hour, like from when you get the email notification to when they expire. So it was 40% off tees, tanks, leggings, and more. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. So looks like not the baseball caps, but maybe the trucker hat was one of them.
40% off frisbees. Or beach towels. Apparently, it's a summer essentials sale. Temp tattoos,
the
can coolers.
Yeah, if you get a COL trucker hat, it's 40% off.
Oh,
Not the baseball caps, but the trucker hat is. So there's many styles you can get. If you want an all brown one to be very bearish, you can do that, etc. It's more of just a beige thing. But also, we are on Patreon, and thank you to all of our patrons again who paid us this month, and we have some brand new people, but there's many tiers you can get, and there's a tracker thing that we should probably set up for some of the benefits thing. We'll talk about that later. So patreon.com/cubsoutloud. If we get up to $100 per month, we will be getting to a random raffle on select merchandise in our store. We will roll the dice for random patrons to get a random thing. Obviously, we'll have a relative, it'll be limited items. But anything, if it ends up being clothing, obviously we will make sure that it is your size. We're not going to roll you a small shirt. So size will not be rolled when it comes to clothing. So
unless you want a smaller size, because you want to show off your tummy or something,
or maybe give it to a friend who has a smaller size. We'll ask, and it's literally, we'll have a list of the basic options. We'll roll the dice or do a random number generator to select one of those. Then we go into the different types of options that are in and just roll until we get to the final product. So it is very random. And that'll be fun. And obviously we have our bi-monthly hangouts. Yeah. Bi-monthly hangouts. Our next one will be next month. At the end of the month, around August 29th, which is on a Wednesday, I believe. So we'll probably be doing it either the weekend before or after, where the patrons will be able to come join us on air. And that will be, normally it's a live show, so non-patrons can see it live, but then it's gone. It doesn't show up anywhere. So, but if you're a patron, you'll be able to watch the VOD and also get an audio version in the patron-only mega feed. And but because it is Power Hour, and we've always aired those will be a special episode that will go into the Power Hour section playlist that's on our YouTube channel. So a couple of news on that. Anyways, that's enough issuing. Anyways, where were we? I forgot. Oh, yes. We are doing this. Gary, what's been going on over in the Facebooks?
So we would like to thank the following individuals for liking us on Facebook. John Landvik. I wonder who that is. Rob Moyers. Tyler Patrick. Antonio Luthart.
Ooh.
And we also got a Facebook comment on COL469, last week's episode for State of the Community 18. James Martin said, great episode, learned a lot. Thanks for answering my question about mac and cheese. So James joined us in the live chat last week, and we didn't, I think, discuss it in the actual recording. But in the chat we were discussing, he asked, because he's not American, if mac and cheese is as awful as it seems as it's portrayed on television, because apparently it seems to be the one thing that is you can find anywhere across the US, and it's not very good. It's kind of the way I recall him asking the question. And then the people in the live chat were like, well, no, it's like anything. Like, it can be good and it can be bad. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can do to it to add in and stuff like that. So,
like I had some mac and cheese earlier in the week, and I added a hot dog.
That's a classic from our youth. Now we do all crazy things like add lobster and, you know, and all sorts of crap. And
making really good mac and cheese. I mean, there's a really good mac and cheese episode of Good Eats. You can get it on iTunes. I can't remember the name of it, but it's there.
Speaking of live chat stuff, I just wanted to answer Arrow. No, we are not selling COL air conditioning units.
Nice.
Sorry, Zazzle doesn't offer that.
It's not a thing right now. So
No. Actually, I haven't actually looked. Maybe I should check.
COL AC.
yeah, because everyone wants to spend like $350 or $500 for a custom labeled air conditioner, but who knows?
Put it in your wall, put it in your window, and support the podcast all at the same time.
Shove it in your hole and stay cool. There you go. Damon,
They have like electric fans or something.
what happened over in YouTube?
Wow. Bitches. We got several new YouTube subscribers. Angel Salvador Aguirre, Jordan Riley, Slim Love Bear, and someone by the name of Michael Q. Actor.
Yeah, I don't know who that bitch is.
I don't know who that is. No idea. No clue.
So, for the briefest moment, I got excited because I mistook it for another Michael. That has been on our show many times. And I was like, oh, bitch got a new like YouTube subscriber name. And then I actually saw the profile picture and I was like, oh,
It's just
cute.
that one.
I should have known better.
It's just
And I'm not being disparaging. I love Michael knows I love him. He's
Yeah.
a sweet guy.
And then we got a couple of comments on COL233. Ooh, that's back in the day. Depends on the sausage you eat. And Antonio Santos said, and we have a translation. Thank you. He asked, what is the side of Michael? I'm assuming Michael McQuaig, which is Mr. Hadrian. I don't know what his sign is.
¿Cuál es el signo de Michael McQuaig? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's that episode is years ago. It's what 237 episodes ago. It is literally beyond halfway of the existence of the podcast. That's how far back it goes.
If I remember correctly, though, I think of all time, it is our most popular episode. I think. I could be wrong.
On YouTube, I think.
Yeah, on YouTube. But
yeah, it's the most viewed of all time, I think, because it's in the thousands. That one.
It is from October 27th, 2013. Thanks. Quick search. But anyway, I don't know what Michael's sign is, but maybe I can find it out really quickly. Yeah, so there's that part. And then on COL469, State of the Community 2018, Mr. Fur and Teeth said, congrats and welcome to the 15 Years Club. Thanks. Yay.
15 years of non-married life. All right.
Oh, I guess that was to me.
Now you get it. I'm like,
oh shit.
All right. I will tell you this. This podcast has not been around for 15 years.
I know.
We're slowly approaching that, but not yet. And it hasn't been 15 years since I moved down to Texas to kind of like have an anniversary for me and Carl, but you know how that went. Anyways. So yes.
Oh, and as a quick correction, we were not right about that. Depends on the sausage you eat. is the third most viewed video in our stream history.
What is that?
Huh.
What is that?
Digital release number 280.
Ah,
Let's talk about sex digital release. Has a lot more views. Holy cow.
Yeah. So, so far I am not. I will do another place, but I haven't been able to find his birthday. So we'll see what happens.
we'll see if we can get an answer to that question. Moving on. Over on Vimeo, the pretty much forgotten Vimeo channel for It Comes Out Loud, because you have to pay to put on long videos. Otherwise, I would cross-post. People really wanted that, but that's another matter altogether. Jao Pedro Punsha started following us. I think it pronounced it close, at least. And over on Google Plus, we were followed by Mountain Bears, also a nearly forgotten platform. So, welcome. Thank you for
Yay!
yes. And with that, we move into our topic. Do I have like a good sounder for this? Well, in some sense, we are not officially. It's not officially one of these episodes, but let's talk about sex. Because for all intents and purposes, it's related. Gary, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so I'm going to say this first because some people might ask, did you already talk about this before? We have discussed the topic of porn in the past, but in different ways. The most recent, where it was actually officially like the topic, crazy enough as it is, was COL470 in November of 2013. So it's been over 4.5 years since we actually focused on porn outright. And why at this time we named it this, I don't know. It's called Uncle Gary's Porn Stash. So it's the name of the episode topic.
We'll have to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's got a not great looking image that says finds dad's stash of gay porn. Anyways. So but I was thinking about this. This is let me lead in and explain how this topic came to mind this weekend. So I was listening to an interview with W. Kamau Bell, who is a comedian and personality on television. He was doing an interview. He was being asked about Chris Rock, who is another comedian of color. And the interviewer asked Kamel about the idea about, I believe, Chris Rock's admittance to porn addiction, which was really kind of left like turn in Albuquerque-ish. Like it didn't quite come into the interview making sense in the moment. Like it was notably in a switch, an adjustment of the topic or what was happening. And Kamel's like, well, I can't really speak to like his thing. Like, yes, he's, talked about it publicly, whatever, and we're kind of friends, but we don't talk about that. And then he says, I can only speak like I know what my, interactions in, stuff are with porn. And then he kind of changed the subject and went on, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, it's still kind of a taboo thing that we don't talk about. And so my mind started to wonder about that. And so here's what I wanted to know is, how did we learn about it? And how much do we think it influenced us in terms of like our tastes, like our sexual fantasies, and what our experiences have been and what I call like real life sexcapades. So, and I ask that because I will give my background a little bit. My father collected printed magazines, specifically Playboy, for the first 50 years that it was around. And then when he got to 50, within a year or two after that, he sold his entire collection. So he was literally collecting it. But it was in the home. And so it wasn't a big deal. And of all the adult magazines that are out there, it's kind of tame, or was tame. Like the running joke was always like you got Playboy for the articles, not for the photo spreads, or for the cartoons. Like it was kind of like the New Yorker, but with like, you know, naked women. Um, and I found it unappealing because I really didn't care about women. Like looking at them, like I could, right? Like I mean, I saw naked women and I was like, meh, like it did nothing. But then somewhere along the line, my dad would buy these, you know, because this was coming from a time where like adult magazine print was not underground, but like, you know, you had to go to a specific place to buy it, and you didn't flaunt it, and like it was difficult to sell because you just didn't put it out at the yard sale or the garage sale where anybody could see it. Like it was usually in a box and it was hidden under a table, you know. People knew people who knew people that kind of sold, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't want to say that they like swapped magazines or whatever, but I'm sure some of that happened. I mean, it was definitely a kind of in the closet cultural thing. So my dad, definitely taboo. And then my dad picked up other, I guess, brands, other, you know, publication title groups. And those ones I found more interesting because they tended to have men and women in them. And I remember the first time I saw Hustler with a man with an erect penis with a woman, and I was like, that's interesting. Not her, him. Like, and that was kind of the beginning of it. But yeah, I consider it an unconventional like beginning, like in understanding adult media representation, I guess, in terms of like adult actors and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of, I mean, we didn't really have videotapes or film or any of that kind of stuff. My parents were not swingers. It wasn't that kind of culture.
Yeah.
At least in my home.
Yeah. So it's funny. I don't have something similar, but what my beginnings with pornography were, I have brothers. I have two older brothers who were 7 years older than me. So obviously they're hitting puberty about the time I was 6 or 7. So I knew of like porn, and they had, you know, we lived in a suburb. They had friends, so everyone was kind of there's multiple age like family members, so you had like brothers. Everyone had like brothers and sisters that were like younger or older, so you had like this age range, so you had plenty of people to like talk to and hang out with. So I know my first experience with it was through my brothers, getting magazines from friends and who got them from, you know, stole them or borrowed them from their parents, and then looking through those and all that stuff. I know I saw my first porn video probably before I was in middle school. And it was obviously straight porn. And I had no idea what was going on. And I mean, you know about it and you see it, but you don't, your mind, because you're not quite of that age, doesn't quite get it. So like, I'm seeing in a video a man ejaculate on a woman, and I don't know what that is, so I just think it's lotion. And I'm like, so they do this and then they throw some lotion on them, and I don't know, like, so you know, and I mean, obviously I grew up clearly, and our, you know, my group of friends at that time then found, you know, magazines and looked through them and all that stuff, and it was that whole like nothing, and you know, there was no like playing around with each other. You're just kind of looking at them because you're young and you know, it's new people and looking at stuff. So it was, I knew, like you, Gary, that it was the men that I was looking more often to than the women per se. Not that I had a problem with the women, but it was kind of cool. It was very different for me. I got my first gay porn mag several years later. I was in college actually, and I was in Canada. The choir I was singing in was on a tour, and we were in, I want to say Toronto or Montreal, and I can't remember now off the top of my head. But anyway, we were in the city, and we had like some free time. So I had seen this place while we were walking earlier in the day. So I just walked back there, walked in, saw they had like packs of 2 or 3 magazines for like $6-7. So I was like, let me just grab some random gay porn, and I bought it. And it was definitely a much different experience. I think I still have them somewhere in the house, somewhere. and it wasn't like, let me look at this and jerk off at it. It was more for me just the experience of actually purchasing something and seeing not necessarily guys that I personally found attractive, but men being with men in a magazine. And it was very interesting. Obviously, a la like Playboy and Playpal, Playpen and all of those. You had like talking about videos, and you had articles, and you had stories, and you had centerfolds of men. Yeah. And yeah, it was very cool. I think one of the first magazines I got had Mr. Arpad Niklos, I think that's his name. But I know he's been in several quote unquote bear porns like back in the 90s. He was very much a bear-ish actor for a time. So yeah, it was I through that, and now then later on through like bear films and whatever, I learned what I found attractive. I prefer a hairier man, a hirsute man, than necessarily just a guy. I found hair, I don't know why, more attractive than I found anything else. So yeah.
So for me, being a nerd, tell me if this brings anything to mind. Alt.binaries, .pictures, .erotica, .mail.
Nope.
.mature, .burly. Basically, I think I first started porn more on the amateur side of things because I used our Usenet news group reader that we had, which was like Netscape Mail or something like that. And I pulled up some of these erotic news groups and downloaded some of the pictures and jacked off to the pictures. And listened very carefully to anybody coming downstairs.
Oh yeah,
where the computer
I
was.
remember the internet. Yeah.
So this, I swear to God, from my memory, that this was before I found the. I don't remember if it was Playboy, or Penthouse, or Hustler, or what porn magazine my brother had in his end table or side table drawer in his bedroom. So I kind of knew exactly what I really was interested in more before I actually really looked at porn, because I went searching for these things. When I found news groups and was able to like download the pictures and stuff, and nowadays there's even like an alt.binaries.mpeg.erotica.mail.
So they move. No.
So even one alt.binaries.multimedia erotica mail. So yeah, there's alt.binaries pictures .erotica.mail. So there's plenty of news groups. So my porn started in the really geeky world of news groups. This is before there was any big websites and stuff. Nowadays, it's all Nifty and Pornhub and maybe a little bit of Xtube. mixed in there. I kind of have my favorite sites of which I kind of like look at the previews of, Stocky Dudes, Monster Cub, etc.
I totally forgot about internet. Like, I don't know how I totally forgot about internet, but I remember like that was in high school.
You're a year older than me, man.
I know, honey. I know. But
we're not a generation gap.
When I went to Governor Scholars, we were actually at Northern Kentucky University. They had a computer lab that was all the way across campus, and I would go there later in the evening and just find, like, that's how you found stuff. Like, I remember, like, your Netscape thing was the thing that, like, clicked it for me, because I remember that fucking, like, the end with the little, like,
yeah.
Yeah. I remember all this. But I found, that's how I found, like porn, like gay porn pictures. And I don't think we ever got video, because I think there was still, like, modems and what have you, so you're still like taking forever to download shit. But I do remember a lot of pictures, and I remember printing off pictures, and I remember taking those pictures back to my dorm room, and yeah. Incessantly.
It's interesting because I didn't come on around to internet adult media until college, when we got internet access in a student group's office. Some of us were down there late at night watching, well, not even watching. I mean, this is kind of like IRC day stuff.
Yeah.
Where you were like looking at bulletin boards or comments and things of that nature. And yeah, like if you were lucky, like someone had a picture of like Jack Radcliffe or whatever in dot matrix, and you could in ASCII and get it downloaded. Or I mean, some of it kind of came through, but you didn't have a color printer, so everything was always black and white. It would take a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I had a lot of black and white porn.
Matrix printers. And then having to rip off threads.
Yep.
What are you printing? Nothing.
Exactly.
It's a lot of nothing.
Whole lot of nothing.
I used Print Shop so much.
Mm-hmm.
Printing. It had nothing to do with porn, but still.
Yeah.
Now I'm just reminiscing about dot matrix printers. Anyways, moving on.
Oh no, that was in high school. We actually had I remember we had a laser jet. It was a college dorm, so it was for like printing like your term papers and what have you, super fast. So you can run them across the campus at the last minute, and not for like printing several pictures of like.
Well, so my favorite was, we had a computer lab in our hall building that we lived on campus, and so people tried to figure out which lab techs were the cool lab techs, because printing porn was forbidden. Like, you would get in trouble at the university, kind of thing. But some people would like figure out which lab techs were cool that you could like bribe with cigarettes or like beer. And so you would, and that was the other thing. I mean, this is before ad blockers. This is before like website, like URL prevention. Like, I mean, the university had none of that stuff. So the internet was just a free for all.
Yeah.
In college. But I remember.
Didn't the laser printers though print everything, like when it came out, it was upside down?
Sometimes. Yeah.
So it's like if you print it and then it comes out and you're quick enough to get there and pick it up before anybody sees it.
Well, that's the whole thing, is like the lab would be busy. So you had to figure out when you could print something, and you didn't know when out of the other, say, 30 printers in the room or computers who was printing what, when type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the lab tech sometimes was just, sitting at their desk and doing nothing, trolling the internet. And then other times they were, bouncing around the room the whole time because they're trying to help people who are like, I don't understand what this is, and this thing doesn't work, and I click this thing, nothing happens, and so because you have a whole spectrum of skills and people trying to do stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. I didn't really discover mature type Hersite porn until college. And
Oh.
even then it was not quite the same
Oh my God.
as
That reminds me. Now that you
Mhm.
say it, you say those words. Hirsute Pursuit.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh. How do you spell pursuit? There it is.
P-U-R-S-U-I-T. Anyway.
It's an EDM band, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There was like
Right
a
along.
website or there was something. There was like a website or something called Hirsute Pursuit, which had a bunch of boring stuff. Oh my God, I remember that.
So initially, I feel like when I first learned of porn or adult media, it didn't have any, I guess, like factor, influence, or any of that kind of stuff on my interest in men, other than it helped me understand that I like men. Like, and it kind of made way more sense because prior to seeing those first like dual sex, I guess, publications, I had a fondness for the Sears and Roebuck male underwear section
Yes.
because it was the closest thing you could get to seeing anything.
Underwear and swimsuits.
Yeah, so, but outside of that, like there wasn't anything else. I remember that one of the magazines my dad had hermaphrodites in it, which I found very intriguing. Like they were part of the photo spread. And I mean, they were solo, but I was just like completely drawn in and perplexed and puzzled and like curious all at the same time about having multiple genitalia basically, and was like, I didn't know that was a thing, and how does that work, and of course there's nobody to talk to, and I'm not talking to my parents about this. Like my parents have no clue that I'm like showing this stuff until I was in my just about my teen years. My parents had divorced, dad had moved out of state, and then my mother got an angry phone call from another mother because she had twin boys that I was friends with, and they had come over, and so we were in the attic of the garage, and we were looking at naughty magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awkward because they ended up, well, the younger, I don't want to say the younger of the two. They were twins, and they were the same age, but one was, well, for, I guess, now, I guess we would say that he was not mentally as developed as his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that did not comprehend social cue or norm to not say to his mom what they looked at.
Oh.
So, yeah, he kind of ran his mouth in front of his mother and was like, we saw naked women, basically. Then, right.
Yeah.
All hell broke loose, and she ended up, and she was a single mother, and so she calls my mother about how bad an influence I am, and blah, 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 and I'm going to hell.
Lovely.
Oh, yes.
That shit.
Yeah. So, it was an interesting thing to kind of experience. Looking back on it now, I'm kind of like, yeah, at the time it seemed like a big deal, but I'm like, all right, now that I'm like over 3 decades away from that, I'm like,
yeah,
that seems so mild compared to what kids have access to and
exactly
can see or do or any of that.
That's been my biggest thing. I know for me, what mostly determined that I definitely like bears. We'll just go that route. Um, was the pictures I start when I was in college. The stories and the pictures I started reading a lot more often tended to be leaning towards it was bigger guys doing things with each other and hairier men doing things with hairier men, and like the stories would talk about erotically like the feel of the chest hair and the beards and the like scruff of stuff, and that kind of those things just got started, giving me the vapors, as it were. And from there, I bought my first porn video DVD, and it was Bear Films California Bears. So we're talking like 2003, if then. I don't know how I found it, because at the time I was living in my intern housing, and I had modem based internet, AOL, blah blah blah, and I can't remember where it came from or how I found it, but I found this video, and I found it, and I bought it, and since that was sort of the beginning, and I know for a long time, if you remember, like the starts of this, when I came back on the show, I had a shelf full of Bear films because I kind of stuck to the brand, because I liked what they did, because it wasn't always. It was a good mix of guys. It wasn't just like the smaller, I've got 3 chest hairs, so I'm a bear kind of thing. It was definitely a Buck Bauer, Steve, his name just left my head. Not Clint Taylor, the redhead. Anyway, but like Buck Bauer was one of the 2 big ones at the time. And Venice Cup was in that one. If you remember Venice Cup was in.
And
that was his
Hadrian?
first one. No, Hadrian wasn't in that one, and not in California Bears. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was
yeah.
Hank.
Yeah.
Um,
Bubba Michaels. That cup. I know there are a couple because they've done stuff together twice.
They're like
there's the bigger.
It always seems like they're always together. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and just like these were not like small guys. These were bigger guys and decent guys, and they were all really enjoying each other and having sex and really enjoying it. So that, I think, honestly, and really, I think that film in particular cemented a lot of things that I found enjoyable and sexy. So it's gone from there. And I know it's not real, but it all kind of, I always have those fantasies about the whole, like the bar fantasy, like the first scene with the orgy, basically. That's always been a like fantasy of mine, like, because it's the whole like the bar quote unquote closes and we're just gonna go have sex on a pool table, and like all of that. And it technically kind of has happened, but not quite. There was a private party. It was New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. There was a private party at one of the bars here, and they closed the doors, and you could leave, but you couldn't come back. So you stayed there, and
It was Buck Bauer, Steve. I forgot what his stage name was. Claire. Bruno Brown, Ray Wood, Hank, Wiley. I forgot what his name was.
Yeah.
And there were scenes with Hunky Cub and Venice Cub, and a scene with Glenn Bear and Cody, and a scene with Greg and Lone Cub. Yep.
And Greg lives nearby. He lives in Dayton area. Anyway, so yeah, it's like I said, it was the like video for me. It's the one that sort of cemented stuff for me. a lot of stuff for me.
And it's $24.95 as the download.
Nice.
So, based on what you were just saying, Damon, like this is what I'm interested to know, because this is part of what I was hoping we would discuss. How much do you think that particular porn versus porn in general influenced your taste and preference and
I think it influenced it a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what bears were until I moved here to Cincinnati, so it's kind of, I mean, I knew what I liked, but I never had a word for it until I moved here. And from there, I learned like these are the things that I find attractive, and it's not just a hairy man; it's a hairy, like bellied, like stocky, chubby, whatever word you want to use, kind of build kind of guy. It's a sometimes it's usually for me it's usually older, but that's a whole other story. But for that video in particular, you had bigger guys who I would consider above average in a lot of different ways, not just in like size, but like girth and what have you, that were not just in a video together, but really enjoying each other and playing with each other and fucking each other and all that stuff. And it was all not really quote unquote out in the open, but it was in a bar, like just them getting together and doing shit. This was Lone Star, like who knows how long ago. And it cemented a lot of things to me, that there is an almost animal lust / attraction to things, and that sex can be enjoyed by people of all sizes. So that's kind of what it is for me. The influences are mostly that, because these were guys that were these weren't the typical gay like guys that I saw in the magazines I looked at. These were like
the stereotypes. They were not stereotypes.
They're not really they weren't really stereotypes. They're also not really just like, they weren't the guys that people would consider attractive, like mainstream people would consider attractive. I mean, not so much now, but back then, these were the guys that people would not really consider attractive. Us, maybe, would definitely, but back then when I was just out of college and seeing what was out there and seeing these guys, it definitely had a strong influence on me.
Agreed.
So, what I found interesting about when I learned about pornography was that it helped me contextualize in a way better what I was feeling, like in terms of like puberty and like the conflict of not understanding when other guys would, be talking about girls or whatever. And when I put it, that helped me figure out like, oh, I like guys. And given my climate and everything, this is not a welcoming environment. So I'm just going to kind of like keep that to myself. Go off to college. And my second year of college through till I graduated, I lived, no, that's not true. It wasn't until my third year. I had a room to myself. So once I had a room to myself, then I felt emboldened to buy VHS videotapes. But I was buying bisexual porn because I was living in this like concept of, if anything is found, I don't want it to be obvious. Like, so, to me, that was kind of an out. And I still wasn't really fully, completely aware and understanding like that there were different versions of like porn per se, or sexuality like that can be shown in that medium, because it was pretty much all just women and there was a random guy or whatever. And I knew that there was some stuff that had guys, but I didn't really connect with it because it wasn't quite something that I liked. And that's part of the thing about this is I was thinking about how there's been these discussions that, adult media, that pornography affects you in certain ways, and it like tells you or teaches you subliminally like what's acceptable, what is a proper expectation in terms of like what sex is with a partner, what your partner should look like, how you should perform, like all this kind of crazy stuff. And it got me thinking about, that's why I kind of wanted to discuss this, like how much we think this was factors in our in the way we like look at things, how we view stuff, and that kind of a deal. Because when I found out about the bear community, I hadn't really seen porn per se. I had seen some images, but it was mostly like solo male model stuff, which is funny now because now we talk about selfies all the time, but that's what it was. That's not what it was. Back then it was like male models posing for a professional photographer. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
they're in their jock, they're in their socks, they're, in a certain scene or whatever, but they weren't really, having sex with others per se. And then, you end up eventually finding, or at least for me, I found, about Bear Films and the different genre, like kind of stuff about basically there was Bubba's, there was like blue collar manual labor, and then there was kind of white collar professional, and those seem to be like the three main things that came out of all that. Well, and sports, if you were into sports.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I think it had some like impression on things, but I don't know if I would say that it really kind of drove my interest in that. But we're also notably like of a certain generation, because like in the live chat, Arrow was mentioning the first porno was in 2011 while still in grade school, and later said, if anything, I'd say porn showed me that all gay men, that not all gay men were toned, fit, and hairless. Which I was like, huh. But like I guess people could they, not that they could, they do, they complain about the prevalence or the availability, the accessibility of it now, but I'm like, yeah, but you also have the opportunity to see more, like not just in volume, quantity wise, but like if you're into it, it's probably out there somewhere.
And the like I harken back, I remember that first like the gay porn mag that I bought, and I remember when the videos from it was called Three Brothers, and this was, I guess, in the gay porn thing, like having like quote unquote brothers do stuff with it anyway. So it was very interesting to me. I happened to find it again recently on Pornhub. So I found this porn. I remembered it because it was the details behind it were like it was the Rockland brothers, and they're not really brothers, but they look alike. They all have uncut penises, and they were thinner built kind of guys. So I happened to watch this video, and the quality, quote unquote, is there's a story. It's like 4 separate stories, and there is a plot, and there is like I mean details about like what they're doing and why things are happening. And the thing I hated the most about while I was watching it was like they always had to play this like, I'm straight, but I'll suck your dick and like fuck me in the ass. Like it's like they had to have this like weird like angle of like heterosexuality to it, which just seemed kind of odd to me, considering this is clearly a gay porn. Like why would you need to go this route with it? And I mean, there were women in it, like, and they had sex with like not the first shot is of a guy getting blown by a naked woman like in a bed. So it's just like, like obviously this was sort of meant to be part of this whole thing, but other than that, like, it's honestly awful.
Well, and nowadays porn has been like, let's not worry too much about the whole like story plot thing. Like they may have like some sort of introduction little thing, like how they end up hooking up.
Yeah.
But then they hook up and it's just pure sex, and it's probably like 1 to 2, 0 to like maybe 5 minutes.
And I'm noticing, like, I'm looking at some of the most recent, like, I don't look at the videos because I don't buy them, but Bear Films is going back to, in a lot of ways, having these like plots and stories. If you've seen some of their stuff recently, it's very, like I said, is that what we need? Like, is nowadays, do we want, like, why is this happening, instead of just like two guys just going at it for, just starting to have sex? Is that the difference between an X2 video and a porn? Like,
in some sense, especially as long as it's just like maybe a few minutes at the beginning of the video, that's fine, because it can also play on fantasies, where it's like you get pulled over by a cop and end up fucking or sucking his cock, etc., or somebody breaks into your house and you end up like punishing them by having sex with them, which is actually a plot to a Maximum Intensity video. So having the big thing, I'm okay with that. Like, how do we get to them having sex? So it's not all stocky dudes where it's just two guys, they're there all dressed, and then it's just they start making out, tearing off their clothes, and then fucking. That's one kind. So if you just don't want to go through all that bullshit or worry about fantasy, you just want to see two hot the people having sex, then there's places for you. Monster Cub, and the other thing is he goes over to see his new neighbor Kobe Jensen, and the door happens to be open while he's taking a shower, so he walks in and then starts sniffing his jock straps and getting naked on his bed, and then Kobe comes out, and then they start fucking.
Because that's completely normal behavior when you illegally enter someone's home without breaking in.
I mean, he just wanted to come over and say hi.
Right, but you end up sniffing his underwear. That's completely unacceptable behavior.
Yeah, totally. And it's
again fantasy.
And really, reality, I happened to see that one, and to me, my head wanted to go, I wanted it to be at the end of it, like he literally like wakes up and he's in like a jail cell. And Colby Jensen is there writing a report. Because it was just like, wow. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like, fantasy
now see,
always come through.
I thought, or end the way you expect them to. I would have preferred. I thought you were going the other direction. I thought you were going to say that he woke up like he napped.
Yeah,
like he fell asleep thinking about the neighbor, and that's how. Yeah, you end up with the whole.
It truly was a fantasy.
To me, that would have been way cuter. Like that would have been way cuter if you realize one of them wakes up from. Actually, it would be better if Colby Jensen woke up from the nap.
And then there's a knock on his door, and he goes answer. Right, and there he is.
Right, and there's Monster Cub. Huh. Right, and then it just kind of fades to black, like with like an ellipsis on the screen, like to be continued or something like that. You know what I mean? Like to
Scene
me, that's
2,
like,
they do it again.
Right.
It's basically the same exact thing, different starting point.
But no, it's like that's the biggest thing for, like, not the biggest thing, but that's one of the things I have the the whole fantasy side of it is definitely a thing that we have to take into consideration when we're thinking about what has done with it. I have a trucker fantasy that I know I will probably never get to complete because I have to actually get to someplace where something like that could potentially happen, and then you have to. I'm that's like a rest stop or a truck stop or something along those lines, and in my head, I don't know if I can get there to fulfill said fantasy. It just seems odd to me. Not saying it won't ever happen, but it's a fantasy of mine that has come through based on porn, and in my the logical side of me goes, it'll never happen, and the main reason it won't is because you have to be in a situation where you're in that situation where it could potentially happen.
Plus, you can't drive to a rest stop. So
that's the thing. That's the first part. I have to get there. I have to at least get there, and getting there.
I need to take. I need an Uber to this rest stop.
Hi, could you take me to this truck stop? I need to be here for.
I'm meeting a friend who's driving in from out of town.
Uh-huh.
Or the rest stop is because a friend of mine is broken down there, and I'm a mechanic. I can help him with his car. I just don't have a car myself. I don't know. No, so I mean, yeah, I get that. Definitely, like, some of that stuff lends to the fantasy aspect of that. I think so. I guess my end answer is, how much has my sexual expectations and fantasies been affected by porn? Some, but definitely not all. Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't, like, I will say this, seeing men naked and erect and having sex did not make me gay. Like, that was a, oh, now I kind of understand things better. And then seeing, like, the bear community basically represented in all sorts of different ways basically affirmed that and then gave me an outlet. But
then being very disappointed when you have your first time and it's nothing like a porno.
Well, yeah. Yeah, to be fair, because after the first time was over, I don't ever recall at any point the two partners arguing with each other. So, which is what happened for me. So yeah, that was never in a porn.
I've had some of the porn like fantasy stuff happen. I've had the restroom encounter. I've had the glory hole encounter. I've had the married man. Oh man, that was fun. I had I had the whole, like, meeting a guy randomly in a bathroom. It was a mall bathroom, and us going into a stall and doing stuff, and him leaving, and then I left, and as I make my way out, I see him meeting his wife and children, because there was a stroller, and going their separate ways. It was yeah.
Stroller meet.
Yeah. And it was damn tasty. Well then, on that note, fantasies can come true sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can understand the statement or the argument, the belief that, you know, it can definitively skew and influence developing minds. Mm-hmm. When your brain hasn't, I don't want to say fully formed, but like majority kind of got its, you know, stuff together. I can see how, yeah, that could definitely kind of throw things off and make you have expectations that are not realistic, you know. No, not everybody shoots and hits their face. No, not everybody, you know, has, you know, 8 inches or more. No, not everybody, you know, is going to just drop to their knees the moment, you know, someone has an interest in somebody else, blah, 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 you know.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of stuff.
Well, speaking of fantasies,
But yeah,
let's move into this. What did I say this one was? Sorry. I have to flip between so many windows. Want to wash my back? My answer is absolutely.
That is definitely just. Ooh, good God. Ooh, hi. Hello.
wow.
Damn.
I mean,
I'm not watching it. Yeah. I don't
I
know
mean,
why watching it back is just gonna get.
you know,
dirty again.
he can just stay bent over like that. I will be definitely watching his back while other things are going on as well.
Sure.
Nice
Absolutely.
clean environment.
Uh-huh.
I thought I recognized him.
Chromium.
0890.
Well, not only am I already following him on Facebook, but for a while he had a specific cut of the way he shaved his beard. And that is what I had to scroll, and then I was like, oh, now I definitely know that you did seem familiar to me. But it was only because you changed how you looked. Anyways.
Wait. I think this guy lives here. Wait. Hey.
Lives close to you?
Yes.
So you
Hold the
could
phone.
watch his back.
I technically could. Hold up.
Just call Damon a loofah and rub him all over.
I remember this name, and now I can't. Please be on Growler. Keep going. Oh, wait, it's me. Shit. I'll do that in a second. All right. Because now I see the first page of it, and I remember that baby bear, and I see him on Growler all the fucking time. I did not see this picture. Jesus. Anyway.
Damon?
Playing pool. Speaking of butts, there's this very fun picture of a thick-thighed, thick-butted, thick guy about to, and he's playing pool, but he's not fully bottomless, but he's mostly bottomless. He's wearing a nice jock, and
He's pantsless.
he's pantsless. I just like the feel of it. It's not, obviously it's staged, but it's not quite staged.
Thick thighs. Nice butt.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just thick.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah, it's just a really good picture. So, all right.
We just want to eat them all up. Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Mine is called More Bathroom Booty.
We've got a theme for today's episode. Tumblr.
Butts.
I chose this one for two reasons. I chose it, one, for how beautiful that derriere is, but I also chose it specifically for the architecture of what he is wearing.
Yeah.
Because I have not seen a jock strap or ass harness. I'm not quite sure how to refer to it.
I think it's just a type of underwear. Because it looks it's a bit like a thong, because it's definitely going up the crack.
Yeah, but it has those loops at the top, which looks like it might have more of they're more going up the body. Or at least it could. Something could kind of latch onto that, or have straps that act as suspenders or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I was completely mesmerized by how it's got all these straps that are, to help explain to those that can't see. that are listening. So it looks like normal jock strap. So it looks like you've got straps that come around from like kind of the front side around down under each butt cheek that connect underneath. But then you also have straps that come straight up the middle of each butt cheek to rings. And those rings are connected to the what you normally would think of as the flat strap that horizontally goes across the back. And there are 2 more straps that diagonally go down in between ass cheeks. Like it's architecture. I'm like,
Yep.
wow, like that's.
I think this is our friend Roan. Roan.
Yes, it is.
Roan.
What is
Yeah.
I mean, the blog it says Rowan, so
Yeah.
assumptions
So
made.
There's a part of me that wants to see the front of
Yes,
this. Like I'm so
assumptions made.
intrigued by, like I want to like. Is there a 360 so I can understand how this whole thing
Show
works?
us more. Be completely naked and have the whole thing on, and do a twirl.
He doesn't have to do a twirl, but yeah, I'm just like. So now I'm scrolling through like this Tumblr to see if I can find another picture of this one because I'm kind of like, wow, this is different. I've not seen this before, and it's almost like if you could post a full picture and a link to where you buy it at, and because to me this is a booty that you show off to the public, like you would wear it to a dance, you know what I mean, like, you know. Something.
Yeah. This is not a like, I'm going to cover this with pants and walk around all day. I mean, you could. I mean,
well, I mean, it's hella sexy. Like, so I could see wanting to buy it and just to wear it because you love how it feels, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's got a Fudoshi picture eventually.
Nice. So yes, Baby Bear does live near me. Chromium 09. He does live nearby. Nice.
Like close enough to visit you, kind of.
Yeah.
For dinner, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right.
6.9 miles away, dear.
I didn't do that, but all right.
Walking distance?
No, not walking.
Well, yes, technically walking distance about 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Not convenient, you know.
Yeah, it's not a convenient walking distance, but it's he's close.
He definitely has a nice booty.
So does Rome. Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah.
Into the links. So if you are a fan like me of Critical Role, you will know that there was no Critical Role of Talks Machina this last week because they're moving into a brand new studio. And they're moving from being part of Geek and Sundry to being partnered with Geek and Sundry.
Okay.
So they'll be doing their own merchandise, and they've got their own website at critroll.com. That's ROLE, not ROLL. And they're going to apparently be doing some more content. They've got their own Twitch page, their own YouTube channel, specifically. But Critical Roles, the regular show, is still going to show up on the Geek and Sundry Twitch and Alpha and Verve, and in partnership with Geek and Sundry, as well as Talks Machina, same thing. So where you used to watch Critical Role is not changing at all. So they're still affiliated with Geek and Sundry, but like Marisha Ray, she was the creative director at Geek and Sundry, but because of this new kind of separate endeavor of Critical Role, she's stepped down from her creative director position, and so that she can focus more on the Critical Role stuff. So they become separate, but they're still partnered with Geek and Sundry. So they're still going to be doing stuff together and everything. And it's not really a split per se. It's more of a spin-off, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to have on the website embedded into the show notes, you'll see the video where they make the announcement about it, as well as a link to critroll.com. The new critroll.com, where you can see like they've been doing like weekly galleries of their fan art, and their fan art is freaking amazing from their fans. So you can check that out, and links to their YouTube channel, etc. So it's super cool. I'm super excited to see what else, because it sounds like they're going to do more than just their regular Critical Role show, which they'll have on their Critical Role YouTube channel and maybe their Critical Role Twitch. But we'll see what happens there. So so I'm really excited about that. Unfortunately, I still don't have any Critical Role merchandise. I did buy a shirt that Matt Mercer was wearing, which was kind of like a pride of like D20s. So a bunch of D20s in pride colors. It was kind of cool. So, but that's not a Critical Role shirt. That was something on Threadless. So, but check it out. It's pretty cool. Gary?
So if you're friends with me on Facebook, you probably saw this like get posted, but I wanted to share it again. If you are not familiar with who Shaka Khan is, get an education, children's, because she's been around for quite a long time and is well known for putting out some really great music. And apparently in June, she dropped this single that to me is flying under the radar. It's called Like Sugar. If you watch the music video, it takes you completely back to about 1978, 1979. It's done in this great vintage kind of vibe. It's nothing but people dancing to the song. It's an earworm addiction type song for me. I think it's fucking amazing. And I want to give a shout out to Ms. Tammy, because I ended up sharing it. And then apparently Ms. Tammy, unbeknownst to me, is a big Shaka Khan fan. So she was like, I am totally down for this. And then I think Tracy turned around and said, I was just going to share this with you, or tag you in it or whatever. So I was like, yeah. So yeah, that's been my jam of late.
Nice.
Hey, guess what, folks? That's the end. Aw. Plenty ways to contact us. You can pop over to our website, cubsoutloud.com, where you can see the show notes. You can also shoot us an email at cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail, sexy or otherwise, at 361-COL-TALK. That's 361-265-8255. You can find us on so many social media outlets at Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Google+, and, of course, YouTube at Cubs Out Loud in the appropriate place of the URL. Join us in our Entourage chat at tinyurl.com/telegram-COL. You can support us, of course, through Zazzle, where you can get these amazing, the shirt that all three of us are wearing, the Smashy Now That You're Sticky, Here's a Cookie shirt, part of the Smashy collection. You can also please subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/cubsoutloud, where you can get the COL mega feed, which will show the main show and DR when we have DR shows, because that's only done during seasons, and this last season just ended. So
on season only.
On season only, so this is not one of those fillers. In any case, you can provide us plenty of ways. Rate us on iTunes. Subscribe to us on Google Play Podcasts, and give us a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio. You can find me anywhere on the internet. It says Box Set, Box Puppy, Box Cub, Box something or other.
Bitch. I am Theater Cub 79 on most bear sites, etc., are also on Facebook, or you can find me as pup_umber on Twitter.
If you would like to get in touch with me online, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as GareBear73.
And with that, say good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one, y'all.
bitch.
What do you mean, bitch?
Oh my god.
What?
And I'm sitting here like, I'm literally like trying
He's
not to
just
look at.
minding his own business, and I'm sending links because I'm going through Roan's archive and finding stuff and posting it into the Skype chat, and he's just getting
Yeah.
annoyed because I just keep posting stuff. I'm looking through the archive to see if I can find like a front picture of that damn underwear. Really, Jeff? Really?
What? I'm
You
just
have
clicking on
got
links.
No, you have got to learn to mute your other shit. You click on every link in the world and no idea what it is.
Well, I normally do, but I did this because it was funny. Anyways.
Well, he can move those hips.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to post the Chromium, the baby bear pictures onto the Cubs Out Loud Tumblr, because I think that deserves to be like shared on to the world.
And with that, I'm gonna stop.
There it is again.